Bibliophiles, and welcome back to Blatantly Bookish. I'm Marissa, and today I'm going to discuss the books that I read in the month of April. So I read 6 books this month, and they were all books that I read more or less on a whim. I had really varied experiences reading all of them, but I feel very opinionated about them and could probably discuss them for a while if I wanted to. So, at the risk of this video being very long, I'll give you a sneak peek of the books right now. The books I read were Another Brooklyn by Jacqueline Woodson, God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater by Vonnegut, Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Saenz, The Wonder by Donoghue, and Dear Ijeawele, or A Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi. So please stick around if you'd like to hear what I actually thought about them. I also read a bunch of other books this month that I have yet to finish, so I'll briefly mention those at the end of the video and discuss sort of where I am with them. First book that I finished this month was Another Brooklyn by Jacqueline Woodson. It's a dreamy, moving book that centers around 4 girls of color and their experiences growing up in Bushwick, Brooklyn in the 70s. Reading this book is like entering someone's memory. Some parts are clear and concise and full of rich details and emotion. Other parts are just wisps of feelings and senses, a smell, or a simple sentence. And because of that, it feels as though it is distanced from the reader and coming through to us through a fog or a haze. The timelines are also a bit disjointed, which contributes to the sense of the book functioning as the embodiment of memory. 1 second will be in Brooklyn at the age of 16, and the next will be back in Tennessee under the age of 8. Any transitions are smooth enough, though, and read like natural skips of memory or a daydream. When I got to the ending, I actually did not realize that it was the end, but then I remembered the beginning, and my mind naturally filled in the plot and gaps in memory by itself. The book was brilliant and ultimately left me wishing for more. I want to go back into the hazy memory of Bushwick in the 70s and hear what happened to the other 3 girls in more detail. Or I even want to delve into their heads and hear their memories from their point of view in the same way. This is stream of consciousness in a different way than I have ever experienced it before, and I highly recommend that you check it out. The next book I finished was God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater by Vonnegut, which I did as a sort of buddy read with Amanda Center. We read at our own paces and discussed afterwards, which I really enjoyed. It was definitely not my favorite Vonnegut book so far. That honor probably goes to Cat's Cradle, but I loved Vonnegut's writing style as per usual. It was quirky and blunt and just the way I always like it. His discussion of class and capitalism was of course interesting and humorous, and as always I find it terribly difficult to summarize Vonnegut's books, but I'll give it a shot. It's about a millionaire World War II vet and volunteer firefighter named Elliot Rosewater who develops a social conscience, moves to Rosewater, Indiana, and there he gives away his money and love freely to the town's inhabitants. That's an oversimplification, of course, and the book is really a careful and deliberate examination of class and capitalism. It's full of cynicism and wonderful Vonnegut wit. So, as I said, not my favorite Vonnegut, mainly due to my incredibly cynical interpretation of the book, but it's still a Vonnegut, which means it was amazing, and I really can't say that I've been disappointed by any one of his works yet. The next book I read was Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Saenz. I don't usually read YA, but I was looking for a light read, and this book has won so many awards that I thought, why not? I'll give YA another shot. It wasn't a light read, thematically, by the way, and not gonna lie, I didn't love it. I think that one of the reasons it perhaps has so many awards is because it broaches important topics like what it means to be a Mexican American, or what it means to deal with PTSD and trauma and coming out. I thought it handled some of these issues really well, and then others not so much. I thought the main character was too angsty and to an unrelatable point. I think the way they handled LGBTQ issues for one character was really well done, and for the other it wasn't. I think the main relationship was poorly written in the sense that I knew what the storyline was. I knew what they wanted it to read like, and my reading experience of it was not that. My reading experience of it was just something else. Maybe if I was a middle grade person or YA person, I wouldn't have seen it that way. Maybe I would have interpreted it differently. I really don't know. Nevertheless, the book spurred a really productive thought process on the differences between platonic and romantic love. And I had a really long conversation with my best friend about this. Is it possible that there is something between platonic and romantic love? I personally think that there can be a really strong friendship that has all the characteristics of romantic love without sexual attraction, and I think most people would just call that being best friends. But the friend I was discussing this with was talking about how she feels that there is a degree of romance in some of her friendships, like snuggling and holding hands, little moments of intimacy without sexual attraction. A platonic intimacy, if you will. And then we used Frankie and Grace as an example. They're from the TV show Grace and Frankie. It's a TV show we both love, and in which two older women end up living together after their husbands divorce them when it turns out that they are gay together. And fans have different theories. I personally don't think that the two women are sexually attracted to each other. Needless to say, their relationship is interesting and complex, and the show is really just a wonderful look at relationships in general, and this book gave me some pretty interesting thoughts on relationships. The next book I read was The Wonder by Emma Donoghue. This book is about a nurse in the 19th century who is sent to Ireland to monitor a girl whose parents claim that she has subsisted without food for 4 months and is still perfectly healthy. Is this wonder a hoax, a heavenly miracle, or something else altogether? I eventually ended up liking this book, but I remember thinking while reading it that the pacing was just so slow and dull for the majority of the book. I was on page 175, and I was concerned that virtually nothing had happened yet, and the book was only 280-something pages. What kept me going, though, was wanting to know what was going on with this girl, and still, it was a bit of a struggle to keep reading. At least it was well written, and it had some intrigue in terms of tensions between Protestants and Catholics and, England versus Ireland, which also kept me going. But those last 100 pages were so mind-blowing. I don't even know if I can divulge some of the other themes that are addressed in this book without giving much away, but if you like books set in Victorian times, specifically about Victorian women or a woman's right to govern her own body, then this book is for you. I think part of the issue with the pacing, part of the reason the second half of the book was so successful was because of the slow pacing in the first half of the book. So it's an interesting read, and I recommend it to certain people, but I don't think it's for everyone. The last two books that I finished, I actually read on the last day of April. They are also the only books that I have physical copies of still, because I have not returned them back to the library yet. I was so lucky to find these two books together in the library, and they are Dear Ijeawele, or A Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi. These books were so interesting to read together because of their similarities and their differences, and I will definitely be doing a video featuring both of them in their entirety very soon. They're both short books written as letters to someone, in this case a friend who is a new mother who would like to raise her daughter as a feminist, and in this case the author's son. They both deal with growing up and the assumptions and views that we inherit from our parents. And they both deal with really serious issues in our society, feminism in this case, and race in this case. They deal with them so well that I think they should be required reading for everyone. And Toni Morrison agrees with me in the case of Between the World and Me. She literally writes on the cover, "This is required reading." And I think these two books are just very important books because of the themes they deal with and also because of how well they deal with them. So I hope that little introduction on these two books intrigues you enough to check out that video when I do film and post it, because I do have a lot to discuss and process when it comes to these two. So those were all of the books I finished this month. Books that I have started but will continue reading in the month of May are Barchester Towers by Anthony Trollope, which I'm about halfway through in listening to it on audiobook, and North and South, which I am falling head over heels in love with. Katie from Books and Things keeps telling me that it is Pride and Prejudice with factories and manufacturing and social conscience, and I am just loving it so far, and I can tell that it's just going to be a new favorite of mine. I am still reading Our Mutual Friend as part of the Dickens Along with Katie's channel as well, and I'm still reading A Tale for the Time Being at a snail's pace. I think I'll continue to read it super slowly. I didn't pick it up for most of this month, and I'm only on page 70 or so at this point. There's something particularly strange about it that makes me want to read it slowly and digest it and sort of just live with it. Oh, I'm also reading the new Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness. I haven't made it through the intro yet. There's a preface and an intro, so it's quite a bit to read, but it's a fascinating look at the prison system so far and at race in America. And unfortunately, the app that I've been reading it on, Hoopla, decided to glitch out on me and not let me read it for about 2 to 3 weeks now, which is why I sort of put it aside. Hopefully I can get that fixed and continue reading it, because I would really like to do that. And yes, that's it for this month. Thank you guys for listening to what I can only imagine is probably a long video. And I would love to hear in the comment section what you've been reading this month. Have you read any of these books before? Do you plan on reading them anytime soon? I'd love to talk about any one of these books, really, in the comment section down below, or maybe in a private message, or, in a private message if spoilers are involved. So I can't wait to hear your thoughts, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye!